everyone, and welcome to the Entrepreneurs in a Game podcast. Thank you for joining us today, and you're in for a real treat. I'm really, really excited and honoured to have an amazing guest on our show today who's going to share lots of great mindset wisdom with you. His name is George Huang. George started out as an ambitious plastic surgeon in 1995, and he struggled with the business side of medicine. He overcame these challenges ultimately, and this inspired him to become the business guide and mentor he wished he'd had when he needed a helping hand. These days, George helps ambitious entrepreneurs make twice as much with half the stress. He's the founder of various companies, the Freedompreneur coaching and consulting business, which is a strategic advisory service. He's also the co-creator of the financial app for entrepreneurs, Profit Stash, and the co-founder of Ungoldfish, an enterprise dedicated to interactive conversion marketing. George, a very, very warm welcome to the Entrepreneurs in a Game podcast. Welcome.
Thank you. Delighted to be here, Nina.
I think we're in for a really great half hour because I know that there's lots of great stuff you want to share with our audience.
Yeah.
You have really switched careers, haven't you? You went from being a plastic surgeon to becoming an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I'd like to find out a bit more about that story.
Yeah, I didn't, certainly wasn't on the conscious game plan or on the radar that would happen. But if you look back as a kid, I was doing entrepreneurial things. So I remember I had a friend, I was still practicing at the time, and we were having dinner, and she looked at me across the table and she goes, "You know what? You're an entrepreneur masquerading as a plastic surgeon." And I about fell off my chair. It was funny. Yeah. So yes.
You saw something there straight away.
Exactly.
So what happened? How did you go from being a plastic surgeon to becoming an entrepreneur?
Yeah, well, I think long story made short, when I was, I struggled early on in my plastic surgery practice because I knew literally nothing about running the business side of things. And I thought, like most classmates and colleagues, you just go out and do a good job and the rest is supposed to take care of itself. At least that was the lousy advice I got from some older plastic surgeons. And the rest did not take care of itself. So I ended up doing more and more cosmetic surgery. I really signed up to do the reconstructive side of things. And it wasn't really, I don't have anything against cosmetic surgery, but it wasn't what I really enjoyed. And I remember one day my wife told me, she said, if you keep going like this, you're going to die an early death. And I think I snarled back at her and said, you're right. I've got to find a way out. And then I think I headed off to the emergency room for something. But I didn't really know, what to do. I felt really trapped. But when our second son was born in 2005, I had this intellectually, but also intuitively, I just knew that I had to get out. It wasn't a good thing anymore. And I didn't want to lose, time with my kids growing up. Doing a job I wasn't passionate about anymore. So I left cold turkey. It wasn't the game plan. Wasn't prepared to do it. And took a couple years to figure it out, but I found my way and stumbled into working with entrepreneurs.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And how did your mindset adjust to working with entrepreneurs? What did you have to change in your thinking to make sure that this would be a success for you?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. So first of all, there was no guarantee this was going to be a success, but what really changed is that I had to adjust I wouldn't say adjust, I had to come to grips with who I was, like my identity. And I didn't know that this was in place, but there was a lot of mindset around being a quote plastic surgeon, being a physician. And my identity was, how could it not be? Even I thought that my ego was enough in check that it wasn't a big deal. But, if you're in the medical field for over 20 years, that's what I was used to, right? And I remember there were a couple of points in time where my wife looked at me at the kitchen table and said, "What are you doing over there?" I said, "I'm trying to figure out who I am. I don't know who I am anymore." And that's, for me and for a lot of people, that's one of the most disconcerting things to happen, is to not know who you are anymore. And one day, so I had this tremendous mindset shift because I realized that it doesn't matter whether I'm a physician or surgeon or not. I can still make a difference in people's lives. I could have zero degree. I could have not gone to college or medical school, and I can still make a difference. And so that started freeing me up, and I realized, okay, I'm all right. I'm gonna be okay. I don't have to be doing this medicine thing that I don't enjoy doing anymore. And that was a tremendous, I would say, a blow for freedom for me because I felt trapped. I still felt like I couldn't move forward, and so that was a critical, important thing. And now that serves me to this day because it doesn't. I don't have to tell people I'm a physician or use any quote physician stuff, although it's kind of infused in my thinking. And so I was laughing because I was, quick aside, I was visiting, I was, took a friend who had been in a terrible car accident. He actually almost died from being hit by a car. And I was taking him to one of his visits with a physician. And the nurse who was asking questions looked up at me at one point, and I hadn't said a whole lot. And she said, "Are you a doctor?" I'm like, and I was in my hiking boots and shorts and t-shirt. And I'm like, I do not look like a doctor. And I said, "How did you know?" And she goes, "You look like a doctor."
It
So
never leaves you.
it's kind of just who you are, right? So, but I think the most important takeaway is to be authentic, be who you are, instead of trying to pretend to be somebody else. And that was a big learning for me because in the medical world, we're supposed to know the answers. And there's a, even though we're taught and people say, well, if you don't know the answer, tell your patients you don't know the answer. But there's still this egoic pull to want to know the answers. Well, if I don't know the answer, then I'll look bad, or the patients will think I'm stupid, or worse, I'll get sued. So it's tough. But the reality is we're all human beings, and we all make mistakes. We all have lapses in judgment. And I think the important thing to recognize is that whatever happens, we've done our best in that given moment, given who we are in that moment. And how it goes is how it's supposed to go. And sometimes how it goes is not what we really want, but it actually is for the best. And I think that's hard to grasp sometimes because we're in this constant fight with our ego and our
Yes,
higher selves, right?
absolutely. There's a
Right.
conflict, isn't there, all the time
It's a
going on?
conflict,
Yeah.
and we can certainly do work on quieting the ego, but we need to have a certain degree of it, right, to survive, right, and to thrive. But it does frequently get in the way.
Yeah, this is fantastic stuff. And it's so interesting when you said that you realized you could make a difference to people's lives, whether you had a degree, you didn't have a degree, none of that mattered. It
It,
was what you could bring to the table. And isn't
yeah,
it true that with so many business owners, their self worth is tied to how much money they earn that month, and it's tied to the business that they do, and it's tied to how smart they think they are. And that is our self worth actually has nothing to do with that.
no,
Our
it
self-worth is
does.
intact, whatever we earn and whatever
Yeah,
business we're in, because who we are is separate to any business that we have and to even any service that we provide. And it's that
yeah.
trouble with tying our self-worth in with, our business and our income that causes a lot of misery for people.
Yeah. Well, and this actually is a pervasive problem. It goes outside of being in business. It spills over into everyday life. People walk around with low self-esteem, low sense of self-worth, low sense of their value in the world. When we can make a difference in people's lives, even by one sentence we say to somebody, or
Absolutely.
a compliment we give to somebody, or a heartfelt thank you for helping me, right? But we don't always see that, and unfortunately I think that's how we've been socialized, and I think it'll take a while, take a few years, oh, decades probably, to come out of this era that we're in. But I think in Western society, we've overemphasized the intellect. And I tell people I work with that there are two I's, letter I's in any business. There's the intellect, there's the intuition. And I teach them to listen to both. Use both. You've got two eyes, usually, and two ears, and usually two kidneys. Use them both, right? But in Western society, we've, for whatever reason, overemphasized the intellect and devalued the intuitive side of things.
Yes.
And that's the real pathway to the heart, and the gut is the intuitive side of things. So I talk to my clients about the head, the heart, and the gut, and they're all an integrated system.
Excellent. And I know that the work that you do a lot of work around sales calls, don't you?
Yeah, well, yes. I mean, I have a program called Freedom from Selling. It came from the work I did as a surgeon, the mindset and the diagnostic thinking and questioning and problem solving. But it's also blended with the cinematic art of storytelling. So yes, but the reason I came up with this is not because I go, I love selling. No, I was certifiably allergic to marketing and selling as a plastic surgeon, as you might imagine. And when I realized it was terrible because when I realized I needed to learn how to market and sell, I don't have words to describe how simultaneously furious, just lividly furious and scared and resigned at the same time, how I felt. It was just a miserable feeling. But once I got over that, I figured out that, if I can become a plastic surgeon, I think I can figure out how to run a business. I think I could figure out how to market and sell. So I came up with this approach that is really based on problem solving. And it's based on, first and foremost, being of service and helping people, helping to solve their problems. It was great because that's what I did as a surgeon. So what I teach people now and what I say to people is like, okay, again, doesn't matter what your degrees are. If you've got degrees, great, use them, right? Don't hide from them. You've earned them, right? But if you don't have them, no worries, right? Be a person who looks to solve problems and is open to growing from the inside out, and look to find ways to help people in ways small, maybe tiny, and big ways. You never know where the pathway or the conversation is going to lead.
I really love that approach. So the approach could be out one of curiosity. How can I solve people's problems? I'm a problem solver, and how can I do that for other people?
Yeah, and that's a good point, Nina, because as a kid, I was always curious. It's just how I was wired right out of the chute. But I use that to advantage, like literally every single day. I'm simply interested. I'm interested in how things work. I'm interested in how people are wired. I'm interested in how people make decisions for better or for worse. I'm interested in why things don't work. I'm just naturally curious. Um, for people who are not as naturally curious, I think we're all curious as human beings. It's just a matter of bringing it out, right? Like some people are more naturally extroverted than others, all right? But if you're introverted, like I call myself an extroverted introvert. Given my own devices, I would just not talk to anybody, right? For most, but I think we can learn to be more extroverted, even if we tend towards being introverted. Same way, if you tend not to be as curious, you can still learn to be curious and learn how to look for solutions and sometimes innovate solutions where there are no current solutions. It just makes things fun to go about life that way, I think.
Absolutely. And the mindset shift that you had, that you could be of service, you could help people in their lives.
Mhm.
What impact did that have when you started your own business?
Well, so when I started this business in 2005, um, nobody had paid me a single penny for business advice. But here I was positioning myself as a business coach and consultant, somebody who helped entrepreneurs to build better businesses. And so what I needed to embrace for myself is that I could do this, I could pull it off, that I knew a lot about how a business works holistically. And I remember after 30 days of calling people and offering a free conversation with zero takers at the end of 30 days, for whatever reason, I wasn't upset. I wasn't like panicking. I remember I looked out the window and looked into the trees out there and said, you know what? The right people just haven't found me yet. That was my mindset at the time. The right people haven't found me. Not like I'm stupid. This sucks. I'm gonna fail. Like I'm gonna have to go back to plastic surgery, which I did have that as a backup plan. But no, I felt inside this belief that I could help people. And actually that leads to an important principle, which is that whatever it is we engage in, I think it's important to get in touch with the compelling reason why we do certain things. Whether it's go play tennis, like I'm a competitive tennis player, or we go into different areas of entrepreneurship, or we go teach in a school, or whatever it is, right? That we get in touch with the compelling reason why we're doing certain things. And I would say that's probably the most important thing for me that has kept me going. One, it's the reason why I do what I do, because I really literally became the business guide and mentor that I wished that I had when I was a plastic surgeon, struggling with my practice. And but it's also helped me to get through the difficult times. Being an entrepreneur, it's not, as we all know, it's not just like life. It's not all roses. It's not the yellow brick road. Would we like it to be? Yeah, but frankly, if it was, we'd be bored, right?
Yeah,
We
it's the
wouldn't
fun
have
and the
problems.
thrills of a roller coaster, isn't it? Being an entrepreneur.
Absolutely, yeah. So is it a double-edged sword? Maybe, but I don't look at it that way. I simply look at, I mean, we live in a world of duality everywhere, all right? And being in business is simply a microcosm of the greater picture of life, right? Just like that's why I love tennis. Tennis is like your life in a 1.5 hour or 2 hour match. You go through all these mental and emotional roller coasters. The ego comes into play, the fear of losing, the fear of winning, and the like, okay, this is not working. Now what do I do? You have to problem solve, right? Same thing in business, same thing in life, whether you're, I mean, if you're a parent, even if you're not a parent, or if you're in a committed relationship, you still have to problem solve. Doesn't change.
It doesn't change. It's all great learnings along the way,
It's,
aren't there?
exactly. If a person is open to that kind of mindset, not everybody is. And that's something I had to learn as well, is there are growth mindsets and there are fixed mindsets. I don't understand the fixed mindset. I'm just naturally curious. But I think we can make those shifts if the person is fixed with the right attitude. I think people can change. I think people
Yes.
can grow and become more expansive.
And how would you, what would be a tip, if you like, on how people can change from a fixed to a growth mindset? How can they make that shift?
Yeah, well, I think it has to start with why. Like, what's in it for me to make that shift? Right. I mean, if a person comes to me and they say, you know I have a fixed mindset. This is the way I see things. I like things a certain way. And if it deviates from that, I don't want it. Okay, great. If your life's working for you and that work, great. Don't change. Really, don't not change it if it's working. But if it's not working, then you've got to look at yourself and ask some hard questions. Is it worth it for me to make these changes? Whatever they may, you may not even know what it's going to take to make those changes and transformations, right? But if it's important enough, then make the commitment to do it. You don't have to have the answers about how it's going to happen right now. But the first step is awareness. The next step is commitment.
And the clients who are committed, they're the ones who always get the best results. I only work with clients who are 100% committed to making the change, because it
Yeah,
takes real bravery and courage, doesn't it? To
absolutely it
go there
does.
and to do it.
Yeah,
It's not easy, and you're not weak if you have limiting beliefs or you have, resistance to doing things. It doesn't mean that
yeah.
about you at all. It
No,
means that there's stuff that needs to be cleared out. That's all.
it gets scary. This is a something I've wondered about for years. I think you'll appreciate it doing the work that you do. Is that we all have fears, right? And some of our greatest fears are right here between our ears. But like, okay, so if I'm afraid that if I have a conversation with somebody and they say no, I'm not interested in doing business with you. Well, a lot of people are afraid of that. And actually, if you think about it, you could actually imagine being in front of in a conversation with somebody and they say no, I would never do business with you, this is not right for me. And if I imagine it, I can actually feel in my body the cold feeling that's happening and the muscles tightening up. But like, there's nobody here but you and I, right? It's just imagined, right? But these are some of the things, the fears and physiologic responses that paralyze people from actually taking real world action. But there's no danger here. I'm not going to die. No, I'm not. A limb's not going to fall off because I imagined that somebody said no to me, right? Even if somebody says no to you in real life, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? Is the roof going to cave in? Is there going to be a big sinkhole that happens under? Not likely. But these, even though it's not a physical danger, the fear that gets generated inside one's head and body and being are some of the most insidious and problematic roadblocks ever in the history of mankind.
Yes. And
That's all
these
made up.
insidious fears, they can stop people. They do stop so many business owners from doing the things in their business, becoming more visible, putting their
Yeah,
stuff out there, whatever it takes for them to grow their business. It can stop them dead in their tracks. And that's why these
absolutely.
fears are the difference between the business owners who really are very successful and the
Yeah.
ones who don't make it.
The not only stops them in their tracks, but it also leads to poor decision making, and it leads to poor problem solving abilities. It's just like if you're all tight and wound up and worried and afraid, it doesn't work very well. Like if you're trying to eat a meal and you're tight like this, it doesn't work. The fork never makes it up to your mouth, right?
Yes.
But if
Yes.
you're relaxed, you can move, right? Same thing mentally and emotionally.
Yes, it's having more of an expansive mindset, isn't it? And really taking that space and seeing opportunities and seeing a bigger picture.
Yeah, I agree. I look at it like playing on the tennis court. You have to be relaxed, even under pressure, right? If you're not relaxed, then the racket, you can hardly swing the racket, right? So again, that's why I like playing tennis because I get to see where I am mentally and emotionally on the tennis court. And then I take those lessons back
I
into the
never
real
thought of
world,
it like that. That's a
right?
brilliant analogy. In terms of, as a business owner, we have setbacks, don't we? Things go well sometimes, other times things don't go well. How
I've
do
never had a setback in my life. No. Yeah.
you,
In my fantasies, yes, but no, absolutely not. Yeah, we do have setbacks, sometimes frequently, and sometimes they're bigger than others. And
how do you cope with that? How do you get past a setback? Well, I mean, what do you do? What's your thinking?
in my so my thinking is that I have to look at, okay, if this didn't work, whatever it is, what didn't work about it? Like really, what didn't work? Like objectively, what didn't work about it? And sometimes it's just my subjective opinion about how it went. But if you actually look at numbers, you can go, it actually worked. Maybe it didn't work as well as you wanted to,
Mhm.
but it actually worked. So I look for what worked and what didn't work and what can I do differently next time. And the what can I do differently next time is not just like the physical. I mean, it is the physical what you actually do, but I look at, okay, well, what was my, what was the game plan? What were the set of strategies and tactics? And what was my who was I in the matter? Like, did I execute with full conviction, or is it kind of like a half-hearted, like, yeah, whatever? And where was my mind? Where was my head? Where's my heart? I have to look at all those factors. And if I'm working and collaborating with others, well, how was I being as a leader or a part of the team? And how are the communications? So I have to look at the things that I can control, right? There's certain things, more things than not, that I can't control. So I can't worry about the things I can't control, but I can control my thinking, my beliefs, how I respond emotionally or not, how I make decisions, and how I take action. Those things I can control. So those are the things that I look through or look for, and it happens in an instant. If something's not working, I just go through that kind of internal checklist in a heartbeat, and usually I come up with at least one thing, if not 100 things that I can control.
And again, that's a curious mindset, isn't it? It's not beating yourself up, calling yourself a loser, a failure, because that just takes up too much headspace, doesn't it? But when you're
Well, I tell you,
clear of that self blame, you don't have any of that going on. You can just look at it very objectively and then just, go through your checklist and
yeah,
make good decisions.
I used to have that, the self-flagellation, and it's perpetuated in the allopathic medical model, right? Surgery didn't go well, surgeon, your fault. Surgery didn't go well, I'm calling my lawyer. Okay, so it's perpetuated socially, but also in the microcosm of the medical world. And I probably brought that with me before going into medicine as well, right? I lost a tennis match. I stink. I'm terrible. Like, no, um, that's not accurate. So, but to get to the point, if the self-defeating attitude and if self-blame made any difference, I would advocate practicing it every single day. Absolutely. Let's practice beating ourselves up if that's going to help,
It
right?
really works.
If it works, right? But it doesn't work. So the question is, do you want things to work or not? Right? If you don't want things to work, all right, then go learn about how to beat yourself up and tell yourself you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you'll never amount to anything, and you'll never make a difference in the world. And all the not blank enough. Just fill in the blank, and it's infinite. You'll live the rest of your 50 next lives filling in the blank, right? But clearly, we're being facetious here. Clearly, it doesn't work to beat yourself up. So if it doesn't work, then stop. Just cut it out,
Do
right?
something different.
Well, do something more productive and constructive, right? And something that raises your energy. Do something that's going to be moving you in the direction that you want to go, even if it's a tiny little step. The
Absolutely.
wind blows you back 50 feet. Okay, get back up. The wind blows you back 1 foot. All right, get back up and start running forward. Right? So I think what we're really talking about is resilience and tenacity, perseverance, and passion, and using our powers to our greatest abilities. And some of us have different powers than others.
Yes.
We
And
use
we
what we
can.
have.
And we can
So,
all be more powerful. This is the thing. We're not stuck with what we have. We're not stuck with our thoughts. We can change our thoughts. We can change our beliefs. And
yeah.
it starts from the inside and then it
Oh,
works on the outside.
absolutely. The challenge is that we all have we have a different combination of these powers and beliefs, thoughts, and how we make decisions and take actions, right? But for whatever reason, there's a tendency to compare ourselves to others. And the worst comparison in the world that I realized I was doing is comparing where I was, say, today to somebody else's. Oh, they've been in business 15 years longer than me, but I'm comparing my day one to their day, like, year 15, and going, look, I'll never make it. I don't have all these things, and they have these. Well, yeah, but they've been at this for longer than you.
Yes.
Well, it doesn't matter. It's my first hour in business. I should still have all these things. No, that's just, it's not even fantasy thinking. It's disempowering fantasy. It's not even practical, right? And again, these are the minds that are games. They're games that our minds play with us.
Absolutely. And it's so good to be aware of those games, isn't it? And then that's the first step to changing them, making sure that you don't keep falling into that same rabbit hole again and again.
Exactly. Yeah.
Fantastic.
I think the big challenge is even if you see the rabbit hole, like you have to make a choice whether or not to step in it or go around it, right? And sometimes, I mean, I've still stepped in them sometimes. What do you do? Well, that means you had a blind spot and we can't see our blind spots. That means it's time to have a conversation with somebody else other than myself.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
So, George, how can our listeners find out more about you and your work? I know you have multiple businesses, but
Yeah.
how can they find out more about what you do?
Well, I think the first place to go is freedompreneur.com. That's my website for coaching and consulting. Go to freedompreneur.com and you'll see a number of different resources you can get for free on rapid revenue acceleration. I do have a resource on mindset. And then I have my latest passion is interactive marketing. And you can actually experience that if you go to ungoldfish.com.
Brilliant. Thank you. We'll make sure those links go up with the
Fantastic.
show notes.
Yeah.
It just remains for me to say thank you so much for being here today. It's been really, really engaging talking to you and listening to you about your mindset and how your thinking's changed and what an impact that's had on your business. And for everyone who's been listening, thank you so much for joining us today and look forward to being back with you again soon. Thank you. Bye-bye for now.
Thanks, Nina. Bye.